Evening, folks. Welcome back to The View for a second podcast, kind of an ad hoc launched or thrown together live stream myself and Darren for tonight. But we wanted to look at the amount of players, because everyone's been saying it this week. An absolute ton of players have been linked with Leeds United over the last couple of weeks. Transfer window opens in roughly 8 days. It looks like Leeds might try and get some business done early. And we wanted to have a little look at the players that have been linked, the credibility around those links, and see where we are. Next week, myself and Ben Locke are going to do a slightly different version of this, where we're going to look at the profile of each of the players that have been linked with Leeds, and do they fit Daniel Farke's profile of player, the profile that Leeds need. We'll have some clips around players as well for next week as well. But as I say, this one came up roughly about an hour ago. We decided to together. Darren, how are you?
I'm good, really good. Thanks very much for having us on. First time on The View, so an absolute pleasure to be on.
Yeah, delighted to have you, mate. For those who don't know, Darren lives behind me over there a little bit, and I live in a tiny little village in Ireland, and Darren lives pretty much around the back of me. So we were going to do it from Darren's man cave or his little studio there, but we decided that given the time, we wouldn't. And as it panned out, we wouldn't have had time to do any of this stuff that we've done for tonight. So
no.
We're going to go into a bit of detail and look at a bit of data around the players. It's just statistics, so obviously it doesn't take into effect the eye test that you'd like to have, and some players are victims of just not playing, so the statistics won't look that good. We try to pull out the stats that are relevant to the positions that we're looking at to see, are we actually looking at the right caliber, rather than just going, that goalkeeper, he's useless, why are we signing him? Let's actually have a look at the data there as well. So also just to remind people, I've run across the bottom of the screen as well, the Leeds Creators Cup is taking place on July 20th in the John Charles Centre for Sport. Tickets for that for adults are £7, kids are £3. It's going to be a family fun day as well. We're trying to raise proceeds for Prostate Cancer UK. I'll be there. Darren will be there. Dillo from Only Leeds Bros will be there. Joe Blackburn, Joe Wayman, Jack City Leeds, Or No Better podcast, Ollie Ward, Max from Leeds Lately. Everyone will be there as well. So great chance to get down and hang out with us, have a bit of fun. It's the day after Leeds play Manchester United in Scandinavia as well, so there'll be a bit of fun and banter to talk about there. It'll be a good day. But if you want to get down, tickets are linked down below in the description. There's a donation button there. If you can't come and you want to donate instead, there's a donation button there that will go an awful long way to helping us with that as well. So that's just a plug there out of the way. And if you want to buy some merch as well, there's a link down below. Right, I'm done. I'm sorry, I'm done.
Get it all out of the way.
The only reason I'm saying it is because Joe Blackburn's in the chat. Just, I get in trouble if I don't. So there you go, Joe. But yes, everyone's here. Good evening to everyone who has joined us tonight. It is a bit of a short notice, so obviously we didn't get the comms out on this early enough to get everybody in, but hopefully over time you'll see it. But let me know below in the comments as we go through this, and if you're watching it on demand, what your preferences would be of the options we're looking at. That's not to say we're going to sign any of these players. We don't know that. They're very much rumors right now. But what your thoughts are on these particular ones, and who your preference would be in that. Would Joe be, would Jaron Lucky be experienced enough? Well, I don't know. I'm old. Does that count? Does old count? Yeah, but yeah, old will do. Darren, what have your thoughts been on what we've seen so far on the transfer window? Just the absolute volume of everybody's been thrown at Leeds so far.
I think absolutely mental year. If anyone doesn't know us, Only Leeds Bros, this is our first summer coming into YouTube, and to be on the inside of it is crazy because all the room. Did I cut out? Sorry.
You did cut out.
You're trying to keep up with all the kind of the speculation, rumors, and gossips, and we try to kind of start. And it's just been hectic, and like we've seen Andrea's stat as well earlier on, we've just been linked with absolutely everyone, haven't we? And it's kind of hard to keep up. So I think I look at it in a good way, because I think like Leeds United are back in the Premier League. It's a good thing that we're kind of linked with all these players, and everyone kind of wants to come to Leeds United now. So it's a good thing. So we kind of should take that as a positive. But it can kind of get on your nerves as well, can't I? Was speaking to a couple of my subscribers as well, and they basically just said, no offense, but I won't be kind of listening to any transfer rumours or videos or news for the next while until the window opens. And you kind of have to remember that as well when you're a fan as well, and not just a content creator, what you're like as well, because it does come to a stage here, doesn't it, where you know that the rumours out there are incredible. It's just agent talk, trying to, reel it in and stuff like that. So yeah, it's been busy, but I think the real movement when the window opens now in 8 days' time, we'll start seeing a bit more movement and a couple of credible links then.
Yeah, the way I kind of look at it, and again, I'm a couple of years doing this now, kind of looking at different journalists like Alan Nixon today with Fernandez link, and you kind of look at it and go, I've covered Alan Nixon's stories for probably 6 windows now, and yeah, probably not
better than
credible
anyone,
at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and it's behind a paywall as well to get the information. And then he linked Leeds with a ton of players last summer. None of them ended up at Leeds. So you've got to take that and you try and look at the track record. None of them are 100%. I always say take it with a pinch of salt. Sometimes it's a truck backing up full of salt. Sometimes a little small bit of grains, but you get to know the more credible ones as well. But there are times where a link will come out. Tanaka being a prime example, came out from, I think it was caught offside 2 years ago, mentioned him the first time. And then it came out again last summer. And it came out very early in the window, before the window had actually opened. It was the end of the season. His name was mentioned. You go, probably nothing in that second tier Bundesliga, Japanese international, not a mainstay in the team. Probably nothing in that. A couple of weeks later, what happens out Tanaka ends up coming in the door. The story kicks off a second time. So the way I kind of look at it is a lot of what you'll hear right now are two sides. One side is the agent side. And you take the Jamie Vardy story, for example, and his agent out straight admitted that he was shopping Jamie Vardy around to different clubs and he contacted Leeds United about the player. Leeds went, you're all right. And they moved on, but you still have some publications like Leeds Live still pumping out stories saying Vardy's coming to Leeds. Leeds target Jamie Vardy. Jamie Vardy was never a target of Leeds United. He was an agent conversation. And then you look at the other side of it from exits from Leeds and you see the story around Junior Firpo with Lazio earlier on this week. And then his agent comes out yesterday and he says, I offered him to Lazio. So it came directly from the agent. That's one side of things. The other side of things is Leeds will have a short list of players in every position, multiple players in multiple positions, and they'll be contacting agents to see what's the availability of the player, what are their wage demands, what would a signing on fee look like, can we afford you, and do you want to come and play in Leeds? And it's a very, very, very good point by Jay here. It's difficult to get top players with the record of promoted teams the last couple of seasons. We are not the big fish in a small pond anymore. We may all feel that we're a big fish because we're a big club. We've not been in the Premier League consistency for the last 20 years. So that is a factor as well. So both sides of it, Leeds will be sounding out players. Then you get the agents telling the journalists, well, Leeds contacted us about this player. And then that story takes off. Leeds are inquiring about, or Leeds have a look at, blah, blah, blah. And that tends to be where they kind of, the two brackets from what I've been able to see in the last couple of years, where they kind of fit. So all that being said, we're going to have a little look at what has been said so far. Some of these might end up being players that come in the door once the window opens. Some of them may never be mentioned again with Leeds United, but we'll have a little look at a few of them. We won't go through every single one of them. We'll be here till next Friday if we were to do that. And it would just burn everyone's heads and wreck your head. So we're not going to bother doing that. But we'll try and keep it as clean as we can. Kimberly, and who might we sell to give us more headroom for PSR?
Could you explain PSR, JR? I just don't get it.
I'm not doing it again. I'm not explaining PSR again. I've had a really good guy called Stephen who's been sending me some stuff on PSR and he sent me a video. I have to digest it and then I'll do something on it again. But I want to watch football and talk about football. PSR has my head burnt. So I'm not.
Imagine how Sean Healy feels.
Poor Sean. Yeah, poor Sean last week. But yeah, Kimberly, we will cover the exits as well and who's going. And I mean, Jack Harrison.
Yeah, agree. I think we all agree with that one.
Yeah. I'll drive the car. Let's go. I'll bring room for your mum in the back. Let's go. So yeah. So what we'll do is we'll crack into this. We're not going to spend too long tonight on this. I will turn off the overlay because it will get in the way. So what we've tried to do as well is give you a comparison. So rather than just look at percentages per 90 and average, blah, blah, blah. We've also put Leeds players in there to give you an idea of what the current averages are like for that position with the Leeds team. Not that it's comparable at a top level, but you know what I mean, just in terms of player stats. So you've got an idea whether these are decent numbers or not decent numbers coming in. So that might help to alleviate some stuff there. As long as we aren't splurging 10 million on Miller from, do you know what? I don't know where the Miller report from Leeds came from, but I don't think there's any credibility in that one at all. As far as I can see, Miller's going to Rangers. So yeah, strange one to be linked with Leeds. Although as a feeder club, we'll take him at some point when he's good. We'll wait and see. Yeah. So you already mentioned Andrea Russo. Credit to Andrea Russo for what we're about to do. If you're joining, by the way, catch up. There's lots of different versions of what we're doing here. So, Andrea Russo put this list together earlier on, and he threw it up on Twitter or X to have a look at. And it's an interesting list, Darren. Like there's people like Killishoy on there who, although is a first team attacker right now, for me would very much go into Leeds under 21s for a year. Yeah. So there's a couple of there. There's some more experienced people like Sean Longstaff and Callum Wilson, which we'll talk about one of them, but I can't see it happening. But it's an interesting looking list, but what you can see from that list, even if these players aren't coming to Leeds, you're starting to see certain positions being identified.
Yep. Yeah, 100%, Jerry. Like what you said there, and it's a different range and totally different types of players, isn't it? And like you said, a lot of these will be agent led. A lot of them will just be transfer rumours just spouted out to see if they can get moves. I do like the thought of your man Killer Shoy. Can't pretend that I knew too much about him, but had a bit of a look into him. But like you said, I think he'd be an under 21s prospect, not one that we would be aiming for as our number one in the Premier League. Goebbels as well, had a bit of a look at him because I kind of covered the story on him as well. Yeah. But then you've got the likes of Calvin Phillips as well, Jer, which, like, you're taking a gamble. We're all kind of saying that, we need to kind of hit the Premier League running. There's no kind of no loyalties here in this to kind of bring Calvin Phillips back with his track record. You love him to bits and he's a Leeds lad and stuff like that, but you kind of need him to kind of be playing football regularly and to kind of get him back. Yeah, like what he says, Phillips now. I do like the look at Beto though as well. I seen him there in the last game for Everton at Goodison Park and he tried his damnedest to score. Do think he's a decent player. We know Troy Parrott as well from being Irish. I think there's bags of potential in there as well. I wouldn't be quick to kind of write him off. He seems to be doing
him with a barge pole.
Really, yeah.
In the Premier League, Troy Parrott's goals came in flurries this year. Like his numbers look great on paper. He got 2 hat tricks, I think. So that's 6 goals in 2 games. So when you look at his goals per game, it's actually not that high. And I've seen him for Ireland. I never think he even looks like he's at the level for Ireland. So like Troy Parrott for me isn't what you're looking for. I think if you were to put Mateo Joseph over with AZ Alkmaar, he'd score a stack of goals as well.
Yeah.
That's right.
And there's some that we're quick then to write some of them off then as well, Jay. There's a Liverpool fan that I work with in the job and he speaks about Simicast like he's the worst left back in the league, and I kind of look at him, but yeah, we're Leeds United coming up, and like what you said, we know we're a big club, but we're not an established Premier League club, so to turn your nose up to someone like Simicast, I think is mental at this stage. He would definitely do a job for Leeds United in a Premier League winning team, quarterfinals of Champions League, bags of experience. Even Callum Wilson as well, if that's a player you can kind of get fit and keep on the pitch, which Daniel Farke has a track record of dealing with players. I wouldn't be turning my nose up at these types of players. Long term, are they going to do Leeds United justice? I don't think so, but maybe coming up, we need a bit.
I'm going to ban Joe Blackburn from the chat if he keeps putting jokes like this in.
They're such dad jokes, aren't they? All the time. You always send the dad jokes.
Yeah, they really are. I don't think there's any goalkeepers on that list, actually, if I look at it. And there have been goalkeepers lists. So we are going to talk about the goalkeepers. Caoimhín Kelleher has been mentioned. And then we to help everybody with the pronunciation of this. Caoimhín Kelleher. I had to help James Marshman out with it last week. He was like, how do we pronounce this? Like, that's Irish for Kevin. But call him, it's Caoimhín.
We'll just call him Kev.
Just call him Big Kev, yeah. Can you repeat that, John? Right, tell you what, right? Let's start off, right? Let's have a look at the goalkeepers. We're looking at 3 keepers specifically at the moment. We've Caoimhín Kelleher at the top. We've got Finn Dackman on the left-hand side, who was linked this week as well. And then we've got Jordi Petrovic, who is on loan at Strasbourg this season, but is Chelsea's goalkeeper and has played up front. He has played as first choice for Chelsea for a small amount of time as well. So these are the 3 we're looking at here. There will be more linked. There has been a few more linked, but these are the more kind of noisy rumors that are floating around with these 3. So again, just to put it in comparison, what we've tried to do is give statistics that are relative to the position. So a save percentage, their distribution accuracy from playing out from the back, and then goals conceded versus shots faced. So Caoimhín Kelleher is a 69% save percentage. Shots versus goals, 11 goals conceded from 39 shots faced. It's direct shots where he has to actually action the thing, so not shots that are blocked by a defender. Finn Dackman, 91% save percentage, and a very young goalkeeper as well. Huge potential there with Finn Dackman. Distribution accuracy isn't as good as either of the 2, so probably more. But again, there's a youth element to that as well. As you get older, distribution tends to get better, but 67% there. And then goals versus shots faced, 17 goals conceded from 81 shots, and that's where your save percentage comes in there as well. You can see that pretty clearly. And then you look at Jordi Petrovic. Save percentage, 76% save, but he's with Strasbourg, so top end middle of the French league. His distribution is slightly better than Dackman, but slightly less than Kelleher as well, 78%. And has conceded 31 goals off 134 shots. So it's faced an awful lot more shots, which I believe, Darren, is a very relevant statistic going into next season, because everyone's waxing lyrical about what Caoimhín Kelleher had. He's been playing behind one of the best defences in the league, the champions of England right now. He has faced a lot less shots than he would face if he ever comes to Leeds United. We saw that with Illan Meslier in this last season in the Premier League, faced more shots in the Premier League than any goalkeeper had faced in the records at that stage. Petrovic, 134 shots where he had to make a direct action on.
Yeah.
Only conceded 31 goals off of them. So what are your thoughts on these three and statistically as well?
I think like the first one, like, because obviously supporting an English football club, you're gonna immediately look to Kelleher, aren't you? Because you know of him, you know exactly
Yeah.
what he's about. His distribution is good as well. You think he suits Leeds United style of play, but you look at the money element then to it here, and it's a lot. Like they're talking 40 million upwards from. It's a lot for a goalkeeper. Where you look at the two lads down the bottom there, and I just think we need the basics of goalkeeping, Jared. We've said that all season as well. We just need someone that can come in, catch a ball, kick a ball. It's the basics of goalkeeping that I think we need at Leeds United. And it would just be nice for at least a season not to worry about the goalkeeping position, not to be bigging them up or giving them too much credit or to be giving out to them. It'd be nice to just have a nice solid goalkeeper that just does his job and gets on with it. So I look at the Kelleher one. I'd like to get it done, but that's a big chunk of our transfer budget then going on a goalkeeper position when you probably need to cover another 5, 6, possibly 7 more positions. It's a good chunk out of the wages. So, and I think when you look at the likes of Tanaka as well, there's no reason why we shouldn't be going across Europe as well, having a look at goalkeepers, because it's proven you can get bang for your buck once you look in the right places.
Yeah, I'm going to try and pull off some transfer market data as well, so we can have a look at just kind of rough estimates of what their transfer fees are. I'll throw it up on the screen here real quick and we'll have a look at it if we can get it over. If that has changed. Of course, I've shut down my browser now. I've lost everything. One second. I'll open this up again. There we go. No, I'm not. Oh, God. Pop-ups and websites. Pop-up on the websites. Okay. Accept. Right. Let's change the screen real quick. Let's just have a quick look at transfer value for these lads, right? So we'll start with Kelleher, right? I'm also not going to even try and attempt to spell Queeveen, even though I'm Irish. I can't pronounce it.
Just go with the Kelleher, yeah.
So Kelleher, 22 million euro, but they're talking about anything between 25 and 40 million for Kelleher.
Yeah.
If we look at Georgi Petrovic, there he is there at Strasbourg, 25 years of age, 18 million, so a bit less than that again. And then if you go to Finn Dachman, now the league standard is a valid point as well. Like Augsburg in Germany wouldn't be the biggest club, 6 million.
Yeah, the difference is not. Yeah.
You know. So you're, as you say, there's like everyone says, there's levels to this, but there's levels to the fees as well. And if Leeds will need to be smart, as everyone has said, about who they can bring in and when they can bring them in and what kind of value they can get for them. And value is not always monetary. Like good value doesn't necessarily always mean paying less money for it. It means paying good money for something valuable. Good player will add value to your squad. So it's relative terms there. But yeah, I don't know how you feel about this. The only question mark on Kelleher over my head is he's 26 years of age and he doesn't have a full season of football behind him. And we know from being Irish and hearing the conversations around Mark Travers, around Gavin Bazzuno, all of those keepers that we've got some really good young keepers in Ireland.
Yeah.
But the conversation has always been, will they go out and get minutes? They've all gone off and gone on loan. They've left clubs and gone to lesser clubs to play regularly. Kelleher decided he was going to stick it out at Liverpool and try and force his way in. So at 26 years of age, he doesn't have a full season behind his back, and he's never played for a team that doesn't have a really strong defensive in the top 2 or 3 positions in the Premier League. So that's all context. I think that's not being considered by people who are like, get him in, pay 40 million, just get it done.
Yeah, exactly, Darren. And look, there's going to be question marks over any goalkeeper like that when you say about levels, what the other two lads are playing at as well. You're going to look at that as well. Well, can they do it in the Premier League? Like you said, you look at Kelleher, not a full season underneath his belt, and a goalkeeper's confidence can waver at any stage. A defence can waver at any stage where the keeper is going to be called upon to do a little bit more. But like I said, I think more so this window for Leeds United, it needs to be smart rather than kind of showing any kind of financial muscle and kind of coming into the league and going, look, we're going to throw 40 million at Queeveen Kelleher just to kind of please fans or show everyone else in the Premier League. Leeds United are back. We just need smart, shrewd signings. I'm sure you spoke to Ian Hart as well, Jared, about it, and he said, like, the board and the recruitment team would have already been planning for this, whether we stayed in the Championship or we were going up to the Premier League. They would have had targets in mind, and they would have for weeks already known exactly who they're looking at and who they're going for. So yeah, I think 40 million, like, I'd love Kelleher, don't get me wrong, I'd love him to bits. Maybe if there's an off chance of getting him on loan, I don't think so. I think he wants to go play football, so you have to give lad credit for that he does want to go now and play regular football. But it's tough. It's just a matter of being smart, I think, for Leeds United in the goalkeeper position. You need to look at something with a bit more experience. I'm not sure if you agree with that. I look at Melier, and there's times you can kind of see his immaturity coming through. Then you look at Darlow coming in and what his experience could bring. But that's what I want. A goalkeeper, yeah, a bit of calmness around him, a bit of experience can calm the whole lot down, and we can kind of build from there. So I don't think the goalkeeper position is a position that Leeds United should be throwing a good chunk of their budget at.
Yeah, it's an important position to get right. But just to answer John's question here, the fee I've actually heard is 55 million for Simicast and Kelleher, which I think is excessive. So I think that will come down. And if Leeds do sign Firpo, whether you want them to sign Firpo back or not, that for me would rule out Simicast completely happening. Then I think that goes away. Then that one's done. And the interesting thing about Dachman is, as has been said here, and it's a really, really good point by all Leeds, aren't we? 71. Finn Dachman free, good save percentage in a tough league. The Bundesliga is not an easy league, and when we were playing for Augsburg, not one of the bigger sides in the Bundesliga. Again, that question of you're facing more shots than you would normally face if you're a bigger side, and have a 91% save percentage. No, he hasn't saved an awful lot of shots. Like 81 is not a huge amount of shots faced directly, but that's a very high save percentage. The question would then be, well, Leeds will want a complete goalkeeper. Can he bring the ball out from the back? Can he start moves? Do they want to start that way? Or are we going to see what Leeds did towards the back end of the season and see Leeds going slightly more direct from the goalkeeper and try and remove that situation? So that's also context to put in. And people are saying Nick Pope. Yeah, Nick Pope has been mentioned as well. But there's lots of caveats around Nick Pope. Yeah. He only leaves if they get one of their targets. Their targets, ironically, Newcastle are Queevy, Kelleher, and James Trafford. So, I mean, I don't know what you think, Darren, but if it was me, I'd let them have Kelleher, and I'd go get Nick Pope for a couple of years for less money.
That's what I'd go for. Maybe Kelleher has a bit more of the kind of prospect years ahead of him, but Nick Pope, I think, is exactly the type of goalkeeper we need at Leeds. You know, someone like him, commands his box, calm, good shot stopper. I think is exactly everything that we need. And what would you get him, Jer, for half the price? Maybe less than Kelleher as well. So if that could kind of open the door there where Kelleher would go there and it would kind of open the door of Pope to come to us, absolutely. That would be one I'd look at. Pope jump. Yeah.
Nigel Martin there as well. I saw a picture of Nigel Martin signed for Leeds this time, whatever, it was along with Ian Rush and somebody, and Lee Bowyer. And I looked at him and was like, God, what you wouldn't give for Nigel Martin to walk through the door right now and be like, this is a new goalkeeper, like at his best. Nick Pope, excellent. Yeah, I thought he was excellent as well. Right, let's move on. Let's talk about the defenders. So the three that we've picked out, 2 centre-backs and 1 full-back, they're not comparative to each other, but just to give you the indication. And what you'll notice is down the bottom right-hand corner, I put Joe Rodon's stats from last season, just to give you something to compare the numbers, because when you look at tackles per game of 1.6, you think, Jesus, that's very low. Actually, it's an average over the whole season is what we're looking at here. So you've got Nico Alvedi, who, for me, Premier League level player, been linked with Leeds pretty much since January. Daniel Farke knows him really, really well. Very solid player. Swiss international, played over 300 times for Gladbach as well. Wants to leave, along with a couple of other Gladbach players who are looking to move on next season. Tackles per 90 minutes, he averages 1.66 versus Joe Rodon this season with 0.77. Interceptions per game, he averages 1.21 per game. Joe Rodon, 0.74 per game. Passing accuracy, 94.4% versus 87.4 from Joe Rodon. He's one of our best passers out from the back. So from a footballing starting move perspective, you can see where Avedi might actually fit Daniel Farke's system quite well. When you look at Leonardo Balerdi, who's below him, that's the Marseille captain, who is going to be tough to get if they're going to get him, but it has been labelled as a statement signing if Leeds were to get him, because he just qualified for the Champions League. He is potentially open to a move to the Premier League. There will likely be other interest in him, but when you look at his numbers, tackles per 90 minutes in a team that was second in France. So again, not under as much pressure. He averaged 2.19 tackles per game. Interceptions, 1.25, and passing accuracy, 89%. Still really high, but from a defensive statistic perspective, much higher even again than Alvedi, who would be a very solid defender. And then you throw Kostas Tsimikas as a fullback into the equation there. Tackles per 90, he averages even more tackles per 90 at 3.51, 1.21 interceptions on average per game, and a passing accuracy of 89%. And again, you can see Joe Rodon's stats down there in the bottom right-hand corner for comparison. There are other players that have been linked in the defense right now. These are the ones. I do agree with Roger Dempsey that Balerdi won't come to Leeds. I'm trying to be confident of going, well, if that's the kind of player you can bring in, it's a real statement to where you want to go in the future. I like the fact that we're even shopping in that pool and looking at those kind of players. So it would be a statement signing, but it would cost anything between 20 and 30 million to get them done. You might be able to do it, but it would take a lot of money.
Yeah, 100%, Jerry, like what you said. And I like the little comparison to Joe Rodon, because we know, for me, you know, some people's player of the year was Dan James. For me, it was Joe Rodon. I just loved watching him play, and you as an ex-centre back as well could appreciate the work that he done this year. But to kind of look at his stats compared to everyone else, it really kind of, it gives you that indication, you know, that kind of comparison, doesn't it? Elvedi again would be one for me. I think it's very gettable. He looks like he wants outlet there as well. Knows Daniel Farke, like what you said, bags of experience, over 300 times for Gladbach, a decent age of 28 as well, plenty of experience, good head on his shoulder as well, 17 goals for them. He's a player I think would be more realistic. If we could go get Balerdi, 100% I'd get him. But I agree with you. I think it might be a little bit out of our reach, this one. So I think Elvedi is doable, and we need that, don't we, during that centre back position. We know we can rely on Joe Rodon. It's that left centre half. We've seen it with Strike. I really like Strike when he's there and he's fit. But we always see it towards the end of the season. He always seems to get that injury to put him out. So we need to make sure, I think, we're solid there at the back. I'd even vouch maybe getting 2 centre backs in there just to give us a little bit more cover.
Yeah. I think it'll depend what happens with Max Verber, as has been said in the chat there as well. If they're still interested in Verber and we're looking to bring somebody in, you swap a left centre back for him, then go and get another left centre back, or you do something with the under. There's not an awful lot of Leeds youth coming through in that position, bar James De Boyer right now, and he's a right-sided one. Leeds need cover there, full stop, need cover there. Also, that has been said, Andy has made a good point. Good evening, Andy. Difficult of rebuilding and getting them to gel straight away. That's the biggest part. So it's, how do you bring all these players in? Because you're going to, as you've already said, 6 to 8, 9, 10 players maybe.
Easily.
Not all starters, but around the outside of the squad as well, because Leeds need depth this year in multiple positions. And again, Daniel Farke needs a bench he can trust in the Premier League and will use in the Premier League, because it's going to be a key factor this year as well. But I think you're looking at, again, a couple of really interesting ones there, which is interesting. Whether we can get them or not. I think it's gettable.
I think Elvedi is gettable, but it's like what you said. It's we need to look at depth as well. Like when you look at the centre back or the full back positions last year with Bogle and Firpo, there was a period of time where both of them were out for it, and you needed like Sam Byram to come in there and cover there as well. Like you mentioned there, Ben Davis as well, and I covered earlier on in the week a video that I bounced off you about potential free agent signings that Leeds United could go get. The free no-brainers. You look at Kufal as well, plenty of Premier League experience.
Yeah.
Bogle for me would be the number 1 right back. Give him a go. Let's see how he gets on. He's had a season on the Farke. His defensive work has improved as well. And then if it does kind of fade a little bit, you've some of them with the experience of Kufal that could come in and do it. And I think that's what you said. It's blustering that squad a little bit there. Yeah. Where I think it's not bad. We don't have to kind of show that financial muscle. A couple of smart, shrewd signings, plenty of Premier League experience to bluster this squad. I think it's what we need.
Yeah, it's smart. A lot of people won't be excited when they hear something like Soufal being mentioned when moved to Leeds, because they'll say washed, past it, finished. But Leeds need experience around the edge of that squad. And if Jayden Bogle is our number 1 right back, no problem there. But he's a very attack-minded right back. Leeds will need more defensive-minded players with experience in certain games to just make sure they can sit and hold. And having someone like Soufal who can come on in a certain parts of the game, maybe help you see a match out, and be that experience that he would bring to that squad would be important as a secondary player, and also could help with Jayden Bogle's development as he goes into his prime years as well. And the advice that he can give you, saw Josh Gilavogi really helped so many players this year. You only see the reaction from the players around that as well. So that's interesting. As I say, if you brought in Elvedi and Balerdi, that's a Premier League at least mid-table centre-back pairing, no problem. Like that's a quality. You won't do both. It'd be nice. And we might do none of them. We might end up with none of these two. And then Tsimikas is there, which again, as I say, I think Tsimikas happens if Firpo doesn't sign a contract. If Firpo signs a contract, I don't think Tsimikas happens at all. But yeah. And as has been said here, we will be under the cosh more often than not this season. So getting that defensive pairing right is vitally important. Yeah. Let's go on the midfielders then. So we broke the midfielders into the 10 and the centre. So the 2 main ones have been linked, and we're using Fernandez today, despite the fact it came from Alan Nixon. And it's not incredibly credible. You never know. Sometimes he hits a home run. This might be it. You know, you swing off and enough, you hit something. So you have Julian Weigl, which is a really interesting one. Not that you want to bring in too many players for Borussia Mönchengladbach. They're a mid-table Bundesliga side, but you could get a couple of gems there as well. Julian Weigl has handed in a transfer request. He has said he wants to go as of this week. Reiterated to their sporting director. We covered it at the start of the week. Interesting with that as well is Daniel Farke brought him into Gladbach, and when he brought him in, every single minute that Weigl was available, Farke played him. Very similar to Ethan Ampadu, very similar to Emi Buendia when he was at Norwich as well. If they were able to play 50%, 60% fitness, didn't matter. They played. Then you've got Fernandes, who's been linked from Southampton. He's there as well. Much younger player, a lot more potential there, but the numbers are decent. You can't put, and people will say this, don't sign anyone from a relegated side. Loads of clubs signed players from Leeds when we got relegated, and some of them went on to better things. It's not necessarily an indicator of the whole squad. There's some good players in every single team. They're not all responsible for relegation. But if we look at Julian Weigl, passing accuracy of 89%, which is very high in centre of the park. Tackles per game 1.64, so can mix it up his game when he wants to. And key passes 0.4. Out Tanaka's stats are in the middle there as well for his season, to give you an idea of that as well. His are very high. Tackles per game is 2.12. Accuracy 87%, and key passes 0.48. So in and around the same tackling percentages and key passes as Weigl. So not dissimilar there. And Matheus Fernandes then passing accuracy of 84, but tackles per 92.31. That's an interesting statistic again, because the context of that is a team that is struggling at the bottom of the league and is much more of a fight than any other team in the leagues. So looking at that, can he get stuck in? Can he win tackles? 2.31 is pretty high. Again, you look at compared to Tanaka, who's a natural central defensive midfielder. And then key passes 0.55 is reasonably high as well in there as well. But they're the two kind of key center players that have been linked. Not that we need loads in there, maybe one. Yeah. But what are your thoughts on those two at the moment, Darren?
Like you said, Jared, I don't think we need too much in there. The question mark for me is over Gruev at times this season. I really like him as a player, and I actually met him after. But met him after, and nice fella and all as well. Amy got a picture of him, and she still rubs on my face because I didn't get a picture with him. But like you said, I don't think there's too much in there that we need, because I think Fark does think of Ampadu as that midfield type. Tanaka as well. I'm really excited to see him in the Premier League. I've seen Declan Rice doing a bit on Tanaka as well, bigging him up a little bit. I was like, relax, Declan, don't be spouting that too much here. Don't be putting him in the shop window here. But like you said, I don't think we need too much in there. I do like the look of Fernandes. The times that I've seen him for Southampton this season, like what you said, he looks like he has a bit in him. Could add a little bit to that side as well. I'd like to see Tanaka kind of let go a little bit more. I don't know what your thoughts of it is when he was kind of playing that defensive midfield role. I felt at times he could do a little bit more for us going forward. So I'd like to see more of a kind of a defensive midfielder kind of come in to kind of allow Tanaka a little bit further up the pitch. But the midfield, I'm actually happy enough with you. I don't think we need, like I said, just one solid one in there to kind of give us an extra little bit in midfield. I don't think it'd be too bad, because you don't want the kind of detrimental what happened last season of Gruev and Ampadu again, and we know Rotwell's not coming back as well. So I think one decent signing in there should be enough. But I like the look of Fernandes.
Yeah, I think, I know Fark will probably put Ethan Ampadu back into midfield. I much prefer Ethan Ampadu as a centre half. I think he dictates the game and the flow way better than he does in the middle of the park. I think he overthinks things in the middle of the park sometimes. But if you brought Weigl in there, people are saying as a replacement for Tanaka, I think you put him right beside Tanaka and you push Tanaka on, let him be your box-to-box play. He can get goals as well. He scored more goals than Rotwell last year. And Rotwell was brought in to score goals, and Tanaka was brought in to stop them, and it kind of worked the other way around. So you've got that there as well. Fernandes is 20 years of age. He's very young. He's got a huge amount of potential and a very high ceiling, but you're not a guarantee you'll get the same performances next year out of him this year. And there's adjustments, and young players moving can take a while. So, and Angreva is interesting as well, because we'll be likely more defensive minded next season because of what we're facing. Player like Ilya Gruev can do a very solid job in there to, I always say if you've got two central midfielders and they're defensively doing their job, then you won't see anyone come through the middle. You'll see them go around the outside. Nearly every time Gruev plays, people have to go around him, and that means he's doing his job for me. So goes unseen sometimes, and it's a what do they call it? It's an unselfish job. Just go in and get the job done. It's not sexy. You don't see it in the statistics. It's positional more than anything else. But he does a good job. And as
would you say the midfield? Would you say that would be a position that we least need, is that midfield position? Because I kind of look at everywhere else, we might need box 8. Yeah.
Now, whether that's letting Tanaka be that and bringing in someone else to sit, or whether you let Tanaka sit and you bring in somebody else, then you use Gruev then to kill the game when you need, or certain types of games. But having those options and different profiles in that middle to rotate around, I think
good options,
makes more sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Move on. Let's look at the 10s. Or the cams, as the kids call them.
The cams, Come on, Jerry, get with it, will you?
I'm a cam, on the Sadun. Yeah, there we go. James McAtee, Emi Buendia. Now, I put Frank Honorat from another Gladbach player, which sounds like I'm trying to bring in Gladbach's players, and I'm not. He's a very good player, Frank Honorat. His numbers are very, very tidy for what he does. He can play wide and he can play as a 10, but I brought him in here just for a little bit of a comparison, because he can play through the middle and he can play on the right or left. So for me, kind of fits that 49ers option model there, where you can play in multiple positions anywhere across the front three positions behind the striker. But now, unfortunately, in this, because we are looking at statistics over the last season, James McAtee's lack of minutes and Emi Buendia's lack of minutes have really hurt them in terms of statistics. So take this part with a pinch of salt, because it's only based off the numbers they have. Now, Honorat missed a lot of the first half of the season through injury, so it kind of helps the comparison here a little bit. But anyway, James McAtee this season, on average, has created 1.03 chances per game. His goal and assist combinations only 3. That's only in the league. It doesn't include Champions League and FA Cup, where he's scored more goals in the FA Cup than anybody else and then was dropped from the FA Cup final squad, which was nuts. 1.03 key passes per game and an expected assists per game of 0.1. Emi Buendia, 2 different teams this year, combining them together. Chances created over the course of the season per game, 1.03, similar to McAtee. 5 goals and assists combined. Key passes, 1.03. And expected assists, 0.13. Sorry. Something has fallen and my dogs have gone ballistic. I can't scream at them.
For a second, anyway, I thought it was my dog.
You hear that, can you?
Yeah.
You can, yeah. One second, scream. I scream at them.
Give it up.
Slap them. Anyway, right. That's that one though. So that's James McAtee. Then we've got Emi Buendia. So went through his there as well. And then you've got Frank Honorat. So chances per game, he's created an average of 2 chances per game, which is really high. Goals and assists combination, he's got 11. Key passes, 2 per game, which again is high. And expected assists, 0.43 per game. So not bad. And again, he does play in multiple positions. Thoughts on these, Darren?
Buendia is the one that it keeps coming up, Darren. It seems to be getting like the Ryan Kent one now, doesn't it? It's every time it comes around, Buendia is the one kind of linked in there. I still have the question mark over Buendia. He obviously had the bad ACL injury, didn't get back into the Villas, struggled there big time, went out. His numbers aren't too great. McAtee, I think, is the one that you look at as like the obvious one. Again, it's a little bit Kelleher, isn't it? You're going to pay the English tax on that one as well. Yeah, just definitely a player in there, a player for the future. And then Honorat, he looks like the obvious one again. It looks like we're trying to fill Leeds United with Gladbach players, doesn't it? But he looks like the obvious one. His numbers are there, but like what you said, it mightn't be any of these players that Leeds United go for, but it's the one position that I think Leeds United really need to look after in this summer window. Aronson, you can see he fell off towards the end, but I do think he still has a role to play in the Premier League. Brendan Aronson, I do like him, but he tailed off, didn't he, towards the end? And I think that might be a lot to do with the 46-game season, because it kind of seemed when it got to around that 35, 36 game mark, it's kind of when his game started to fade.
Double the minutes, Darren, that he played to follow up the previous
season.
Crazy,
Crazy. Yeah, crazy. So I do think Aronson has a bit to play, not as a starter, but it is a position that we look at. McAtee as well, there's going to be a lot of pursuers there, isn't there? I think every club in the Premier League is after being linked to him, or have connections there with him. But Honorat looks like the obvious one, doesn't he? Decent player, scores goals. The G&A there speaks for itself as well. But if McAtee plays a little bit more, could his G&A be a little bit better as well? So yeah, the few to look at. The one Buendia as well, it's one that I look at and I think not really for me. I know that might go against a few people's wishes, but yeah, Buendia for me is a player that I think it might be a little bit more of a gamble rather than the other two.
Yeah, Kimberly's asking for transfer market prices on these, so I'm just pulling them off now.
Good idea.
I'm with Emi Buendia. Last year I probably would have said yeah, but this season it's been a struggle for him. He has come back from an ACL injury as well. So if you look at transfer market, Frank Honorat's fee is around £12 million. You could get him between 10 and 12 according to the reports this week on him. James McAtee, anything between 15 and 25 million. He is in the final year of his contract, so there's a haircut that could possibly come in there as well. And Emi Buendia, Aston Villa want 25 million for him. Bayer Leverkusen had a £17 million option for him, and they decided not to take that up after his loan, so he's gone back. So if I'm Leeds, if they're not paying 17 million for him, you want to be paying less than that again. So again, if you look at value, financial amount of money versus what they deliver, Honorat's probably delivering more, but he's played more games than the other two as well, which obviously inflates his numbers a little bit. You've got consistency and momentum there as well to take into consideration. So it's interesting. Buendia on the back of a half a season back after an ACL might be okay with a full preseason. You could see the best of him. Again, Farke knows him quite well. I don't know if Farke worked with Honorat. I don't know if they were there at the same time or not. So I don't know if he's necessarily a Farke player, but he came back from injury and he just started smashing goals and getting assists in when he came back after being injured this year onwards. So French international as well. So an interesting one there as well. But they're three kind of different types of profiles. Buendia, again, I haven't put Gus Hamer in here yet. That won't come up until Sheffield United do or don't get promoted at the weekend. But the other two, I think, are more likely to be conversations. Let's move on there. We talk about the striking positions. Yes, I have put Callum Wilson on this.
Yeah.
Do I believe Leeds are trying to sign Callum Wilson? No, I don't. That doesn't mean he shouldn't be in there. And he's been nailed by having two awful seasons in terms of that. But I've got some other statistics on all of these three because, again, lack of game time is a factor for at least two.
Yeah.
So if we look at Callum Wilson, goals per 90 this season, none, because he didn't score any goals this year because he was out injured for the bulk of the season. Although he says he's been fit for 4 months and hasn't been used. So there's that. Expected goals 0.009. Sorry, real quick. Angel Gomez, go look at how many games he played in France. I would say no. He hasn't played enough football, especially in that league. Anyway, so Callum Wilson, but it's a good show. I did look at Angel Gomez initially. That's interesting. Looked at his numbers and went, Jesus, he's really fallen off a cliff. Yeah. So we'll see. Wilson, expected goals 0.09. Shot accuracy 25%, and big chances missed. There's no data on that one this year. Beto down below them, who, by the way, is a cult hero according to Andre Russo over in Italy. They love him over there. Hasn't particularly worked for Everton, but he does add some good aspects. He's very good at holding the ball up. His link-up play is very good. Yeah. He's a big, strong boy as well. Goals per 90, 0.53. So a goal every 2 games, roughly. Expected goals, 0.5. Again, backs that one up. Shot accuracy, 61%, but has missed 20 big chances this season. So that's a lot. And then you look at Vladislav Vanat from Dynamo Kyiv. Goals per 90, 0.76. Expected goals, 0.7. Shot accuracy, 56%. Big chances missed. No data on that one, although I did have a look at his other stats. So these numbers down the bottom right-hand corner over here, by the way, these are Joel Pirou's numbers for comparison for you. So you've got a Leeds comparison there. What I will add to this, because it's missing off of these, and some of these players haven't played, and Vanat's very young, so he's, in and out. Let's look at the conversion rate over the last 5 seasons. So if you look at Callum Wilson, his conversion rate over the last 5 seasons is 19.8%. Beto's over the last 5 seasons, which does take his time in Italy into consideration, 22.2%. Vanat's 22%. I've thrown Honorat in here as well. He's got 21% to give you a comparison there. And I believe Joe Piro's is in around 18% conversion rate as well. So from that perspective, pretty much in and around slightly better than probably what we have. They are playing at a higher level than we've had. Vanat's the interesting one for me because Kyiv said he wasn't going anywhere till after their European qualifiers had taken place this summer. Then they would consider a move for him. Someone has leaked the fact that he has a release clause to the press this week of £17 million, which is not an awful lot. His numbers are very, very good this season. Yeah. So all of a sudden now that conversation with Kiev changes because if someone bids 17 million, they can't hang on to him. It's done. Move on. Everton situation with Beto there said to be looking for a new number 9, which might free up Beto for a move away. But your thoughts on these ones?
But that's an interesting one, Jer, because it was one that popped up recently and had a look at his numbers, like what you said, 110 appearances for Kiev, 48 goals. Like that's decent numbers for a 23-year-old lad. And like you said, he's been in and out. Really, really good numbers. What I'm looking for going into the Premier League is something different to Joe Pirro, a different kind of type of striker. And I think Beto is that, a bit of a bully, someone that we can, games that we kind of need the ball held up a little bit more. We don't really have that at the minute, and that's what I think we'll need in the Premier League. We talk about trying to alleviate the pressure a little bit more, and we kind of worry in games like that where we kind of need to get the ball and be held up and drag us up the pitch. Can Pirro do that? I don't think so. So I think a player like Beto would be his kind of type of style, not necessarily him, but someone that can kind of put himself about a little bit more, kind of hold the play up for that different kind of type of style to Joel Pirro. But I'm going to be honest, I'm looking forward to seeing Joel Pirro in the Premier League to see what he can do. I think it might suit him a little bit better if he can just get into the box. Yeah, from kind of coaching as well. It's one thing that probably my little gripe with Joe Pirro is he doesn't get in the box enough for being a striker and an attacking player. He lingers a little bit more. I think if he kind of get himself into the box a little bit more, I'd like to see Farr kind of drive that into him a little bit more. I think he'd get a lot more goals. But I'm interested to see Pirro in the Premier League, but a different type of profile of striker to him. Big, strong, physical, can put himself about. That's what I'll be looking at. But Vanat, he looks like a prospect, doesn't he? 23, and his numbers are very good.
See, I would be of I suppose I agree with Luke on this. I'm kind of with him. You'd want a more experienced striker in the Premier League, but 17 million is fairly low risk in Premier League money for a fellow with serious potential that Fanat has. He's been called one of the top prospects in Ukrainian football, full stop. And like, that's high praise when you think of the players like Shevchenko and Rebrov that came out of Ukraine as well. So their glory days. So that's interesting as well. But what I would say is, this is where I could see Callum Wilson happening. I could see Leeds bringing in a young striker like Fanat and a Callum Wilson for experience. And if one's not doing it, the other one does. I hate to invoke his name, but if you go back to when Alex Ferguson managed Manchester United, he'd bring in an experienced player and a younger player as well. So like they had York and Cole, but they also had Sheringham as well. So if the younger ones weren't really hitting the heights, the older, more experienced player came off the bench and did the job. So you could see something like that where, or they could just use Joe Pirro as that or Patrick Bamford as that. I know, don't come at me. But you know what, you get what I'm saying.
They're gonna have allocated budget out there, aren't they? Like, they have all these strategists now to sit down and look, and they're going to look at the striker position and say, right, we've got X amount to go into that pot, we've got X amount to go into the keeper's pot. They're going to have a fair idea in their head what their budget is for that position and what they're going to want to spend realistically, aren't they? And I think if they can kind of save a bit of money there with the likes of Callum Wilson, like you said, even to go out and spend a little bit more than 17 million in the striker position, they probably will look at that.
I like the I do and I don't. I like the idea of Beto, because I've watched him an awful lot over the last couple of weeks when he's been playing regularly. It's not from a goals perspective. It's from what else he brings. Someone said there, we need someone. I'm trying to find it. We need someone who can score a header from a corner. You know, he's a big lump of a lad. And we need a physical side next season. We're gonna need to fight and battle, and he can do that. He's quite leggy and gangly, but when
he's
he gets
awkward,
into
isn't he, Jay? He's one of them awkward type of players where he can bring the best around and the players around him, isn't he? When I was watching him for Everton the times this season, the last game at Goodison as well, he did miss a lot of chances. There's no denying it. You can see that by the graph. 20 big chances missed isn't great, but it's everything kind of else around him that he kind of seems to bring into the game. Is it the idea that I like about someone like that, I think, and yeah, but it's hard to diss for Nat then as well, isn't it? His numbers as well, and then Wilson is on a free, but it depends on what way the board are going to look at it, Jerry, and what type of money and what kind of key areas that they think Fark might turn around and say, I'm happy enough with my Pirro and Patrick Bamford, as much as we don't want to hear it, and Bamford seems like he's happy enough to have another crack at the Premier League again. Don't kill me, but
sure he is. I'd like a crack at the Premier League. No, we can't always get what we want,
2 weeks after the window closes, hamstring injuries, out for 3 months.
Oh, guaranteed. Yeah, before the season kicks off, he misses the first game of the season nearly every year. So, yeah, we'll see.
Nailed on.
If he have a banger of a preseason and get injured against Villarreal before we kick off the season, then he's done. Right, I think we'll leave it at that. We've gone for 48 minutes, which is probably longer than we were going to go initially. But massive thanks for everyone for sticking with us. I know the transfer stuff at this stage of season is a bit annoying and irritating, and every day there's new rumors, but kind of the point of the channel is that we take the news that's out there, we give it to you, and you decide yourself whether you think it's credible or not, or whether you want to believe it or not. Form your own opinions. You're all big boys and girls. You can do that yourself. You don't need me telling you whether we are or aren't doing something. If we hear anything, we'll do it. And Manny's going to finish this out today by just saying only a successful window if we bring in Ryan Kent and a Dan Mature. All right, yeah, it wouldn't be a window without those two, would it? So massive thanks. Dan, what's going on at your channel this week, mate?
What's got a few bits coming up that I've obviously ran by you, a couple of ideas that I have, because obviously we spoke about transfers and stuff like that, and it kind of seems to be doing everyone nuts in. So obviously did one about 5 players Leeds United could sign, 5 players we should stay away from. So I have an idea in my head of doing my 5 favourite Leeds kits of all time, 5 worst, and kind of doing a bit of tier list and getting you guys involved. More kind of sort of light-hearted, easy kind of type of watch content, because we've heard PSR and transfers, and it seems to be have everyone's head exploding. So maybe a little bit more of a gentle kind of sort of watch that I'm kind of doing a bit more of a fun watch. So yeah, probably try and get something out tomorrow if we can, and then if anything kind of pops up, any kind of news stories, if Fairpo does eventually sign, or Joe Blackburn told us last week Simicast was signing and he still hasn't. If he does, will I'm sticking. I'm waiting for the push-ups and the sit-ups.
Coming, Joe.
Yeah. So then anything that happens in the world of Leeds United, then we try and cover it and try and get the community involved and get everyone's thoughts. Yep.
We'll keep an eye on everything as it happens over the weekend as well. We'll see where we are. But yeah, massive thanks to everyone for joining in. Darren's done a really good video on the released players in the Premier League, the guys that are free right now, the 5 that we could look at, and the 5 to absolutely stay miles away from. So if you want to get some more Leeds content, it's a really good video. Go check that out. It's nice and short and sweet and in and out. So good stuff. Go check it out. Darren, thanks for joining me tonight. Really appreciate it.
Thanks very much, Jer.
Folks, I'll see you on Monday morning for Leeds News. Enjoy your weekend. See ya. Bye.